𝘵𝐿, one of my favorite goddesses, because I live for the night. Anyway, who is she? She's the goddess of night in Greek mythology, but she's not a normal goddess. Goddess might not even be the right word for her. She's not a titan either. She's older than that. Much older. She was one of the first beings born from chaos, one of the primordial forces that shaped existence and birthed an entire generation of gods. And Zeus was terrified of her. Technically, I guess this would make her Zeus's great aunt, depending on whether you interpret Gaia as her sister and another direct descendant of chaos, or as a spontaneously generated being along with chaos, Eros, and Tartarus. Hesiod's Theogony doesn't really specify if Gaia was a descendant of chaos or a co-created being. The text is ambiguous, at least as far as I interpret. But using this interpretation, she and Zeus are related, and who among us isn't at least a little bit wary of their great aunt? Their exact relationship isn't really relevant, though. Her strength isn't clear from the text alone, but shows up in other texts. To explain just how strong she is, we need to look at how strong Zeus is. He was incredibly powerful. Homer gives us the following text in Book 8 of the Iliad. That's Zeus talking about how much more powerful he is than the other Olympians. He's the one saying this, but no one contradicted him on this point. A being that fought the Titans and Typhon, and won. A being that claims to be stronger than all the Olympians combined. And 𝘵𝐿 terrified him. We see this later in the Iliad, when Hypnos is talking about fleeing to 𝘵𝐿 to escape Zeus's wrath. So let's set the scene. One of the plot points in the Iliad is that Hera uses Hypnos' power to put Zeus to sleep, and Hypnos, fearing Zeus's wrath, flees to his mother, 𝘵𝐿. In Book 14 of the Iliad, we get this. There are two things really interesting about this passage. The first is where she's referred to as tamer of gods and men. That's quite an appellation, and it's not a mistranslation. The interesting word is 𝘝𝑪tera, which I believe is normally applied to taming horses. In addition to this, Zeus himself stands in awe of her. Both of these passages are from the Iliad, though she gets a passing mention in Hesiod's Theogony when the poet describes the god's family tree at the beginning, and when her home is later described where she lives with some of her children. The LSJ Greek lexicon notes that the specific word, 𝑎𝑧𝑒𝑡𝑜, describing her relationship to Zeus translates to stand in awe of, especially gods and one's parents. Zeus is the one who stands in awe. Let that sink in. While reading too much into a word, especially without looking at how it's used in multiple contexts, isn't wise, it's interesting to see something like that applied to the literal king of the gods relative to anyone else. My interpretation is that it's less of a matter of respect, like one might have for parents, and more a matter of fear, like the ancient Greeks had for their gods, especially when combined with the earlier line about her taming gods and men. All that being said, we really don't know too much about her from the myths. Thanks to Hesiod's Theogony, we know that she was one of the first beings, had a number of children, and where she lived, but we don't know much about any worship of her, or any other myths that really involve her, save for an Orpheus poem, which attributes 𝘵𝐿 rather than chaos as the origin of all things. Even art and iconography is largely sparse. I could be wrong, but from what I've seen, the oldest depictions of her are Roman. This isn't altogether surprising, since most of the primordials don't receive a lot of direct worship or myths, but were quite important from a narrative perspective for setting the stage for the Olympians later. So what do we really know about her? She's old, she's powerful, she dwells in Tartarus, a place that frightens even gods, and she's at least somewhat close with her children. She's also influential for her legacy. She had a lot of kids, either with Erebus or spontaneously generating them, and these offspring have a major impact on human existence. Take a look at that chart. Take a look at some of those names. Strife, woe, sleep, friendship, death. These are some names that impact most facets of human life, and there would have been even more if I had room to include all of Strife's children. But beyond all that, she's kind of a mystery, and a fascinating one. Unfortunately, that's really all I can say. but I hope it's been at least somewhat informative for you. Have a nice evening. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe.